Hey, long time no see. Look, I'm not gonna waste your time with apologies and whatnot. We're just gonna pretend like this whole wait didn't happen and the video came out when it was supposed to. Yeah? Sound good? Great. Now, where was I again? Alright, so, Tower of God Season 2, the big behemoth. I'm finally done with it, and I'm positive that this is the most content I've ever read in such a short time span. My god, I don't know how you people do this, man. I've heard people in the comments say, I read Season 2 in a week, and I'm like, geez, duh. I don't know. Maybe I just don't have the free time that these people have. But nonetheless, despite the mountain that it was to climb, I enjoyed the journey, and I'm here to give you guys my thoughts. Keep in mind, I've only just finished Season 2 about 2 months ago, and have only taken a small peek at Season 3 mainly because I needed a break from reading it, and the author has been on a bit of a hiatus, so I didn't want to pick it up and then be caught up with nothing to read after that, so I'll get around to it at some point. But before I start to talk about Season 2, let me make some corrections on some of the things I said in my last video. You all made sure to let me know that there were an abundance of things that were left out of the anime adaptation, and because of these things, everyone should read Season 1 before leaping into Season 2. But, personally, I don't think it's mandatory for you to read it, but if you want to be knowledgeable on every little thing, then sure, have at it. I still think the anime is a good adaptation, you can fight me on that, and I honestly don't think you need to reread it if you want to move forward. Yes, there are things that you'd be more appreciative of if you read the first season, but I don't think it'll hinder your experience to where you'll feel like you're missing out on something. But hey, that's just me. I'm putting that information out there so that way I don't get attacked this time, so do with that what you will. Also, in that video, I slandered the hell out of Bam pretty hard and ended up calling him a simp, which I'll admit was a little harsh now that I look back on it, and a lot of you commented on my last video saying that Rachel was sort of like a motherly figure to him and she was his everything until suddenly she wasn't. And you're right, Bam's actions are done purely out of confusion and him just wanting to understand what's going on and why these things are happening to him. When I put myself in his shoes and try to be realistic about it, I get it. Simply killing Rachel isn't as easy as we the viewers think it is. So it is a bit unfair for me to want him to take her out right then and there. Yeah, looking back now, that didn't really age well, but that was then, this is now. So here's how we're gonna do this video. I'm gonna split it up into sections for each of the different arcs to keep things nice and simple. There will be timestamps linked in the description for you to click on just in case you wanted to hear me talk about a specific part. Sound good? Of course it does. Let's just dive right in. First, starting exactly where I left off in my last video, the Hell Train arc. Honestly, I didn't know what to expect going into this one since the majority of the comments I received on that video were saying things like,
when you reach mid to late Hell Train and Season 3, it's going to be insane.
I read the whole 485 chapters in 7 days. Best shit I've ever read.
Hell Train / Hidden Floor arcs are single-handedly some of the best storytelling / combat sequences I've seen in forever.
This boy is gonna get his mind blown when he reads the war arc and finds more about Bam's backstory.
Hell Train arc is gonna fuck you up. Haha.
well, here's the thing, guys. I have thought long and hard about it, and honestly, the Hell Train arc kinda sucked. I'm kidding. The Hell Train arc is easily one of the best things I've ever read. It does have its fair share of problems, but for the most part it delivers on all the things you'd expect from such a climactic arc. We are introduced to a ton of characters. I'm not going to go into detail for all of them, but if you were interested in something like that, you can check out my tier list video I did a while back, where I talk about every character in Season 2 in greater detail. The main person I do want to talk about though is Bam. This arc does an amazing job at finally molding Bam into his own character. Before, I found myself not really liking him because in the first season he had little to no personality, and in the beginning of the second season he was playing up a facade as jovial grace, but here we are finally shown the true Bam. He is challenged constantly and expresses a lot more emotion than he did before. It especially helps now that Kun and Rak are by his side. Ever since his last confrontation with Rachel, he's now more skeptical and less naive. I just hate that trope where characters become friends with every villain. And thankfully, Tower of God does not go down that road. I'm so glad they didn't do that with him. Even the characters he meets on the train are really cool too. They don't drag the story down in any way like most other manga series I've seen where a new character gets introduced, they instantly feel the need to explain their backstory, and to me, that always drowns it out and makes me not want to care because I'm trying to focus on what's happening right now. Who cares about what's happening 15 years ago when you were a kid, right? It's a slippery slope whenever you do that because it can come across as filler or a waste of time. And what Tower of God does great is that it doesn't really dwell on the past. Everything happens in the moment and no time is really wasted. Characters don't really trust each other right away. It's something that's earned and not just given to you just because we share the same goal. I said this a lot in my tier list video, but what I love is that a lot of the characters in the tower just tag along, not because they want to join Bam's group or be friends with him. They just simply want to climb the tower as fast as possible, and doing that with people who are strong is just going to be the best way to get it done. It's like an unspoken rule among the people in the tower. Now, if we rewind back to my last video, you'll remember that we kind of left off right at the point where we board the Hell Train. I know I'm skipping over a few things, but for the nature of this video and how much I cover in this video, I kind of have to skip some of the smaller stuff. So for the sake of time, I'm just going to fast forward to when everyone is boarded on the Hell Train and they are all given a month to prepare for the game in which White and Bam will compete. Who is White, you might ask? Well, you shouldn't be asking that because I hope you've already read this, but White is the villain of the Hell Train arc, at least for most of it. And it's here that we learn his backstory and just how sinister he really is. I mean, the guy has massacred entire civilizations just for fun. He's a pretty cool villain. I like his design a lot, but he didn't leave the biggest impact on me personally. The reason I say that is I've just seen characters like him in many other shows, and personally I feel like they were done better there, but even saying that, I still feel like he is a really good character in his own right. He just seems the most comically evil out of all the other antagonists in the series. He's also an ex-slayer for Foog, so you already know from the jump how he'll react when he sees Bam for the first time. As we all know, White gets most of his power from souls, and unfortunately his souls are spread amongst the other parts of him spread throughout the train. So he spends his month trying to gather all of them so he can become whole again. Meanwhile, Bam is training under the God of Guardians. Side note, that name is really badass. Now, what's great about this from a reading perspective is that since everyone is spread out and doing different things, it makes the flow and the pacing of the chapters feel so much better here, because whenever someone's plotline is getting a little dry, it'll switch over to a different set of characters and show what they're doing. So that way you're never really bored or like, oh my god, when are we going to get done doing this thing? You know, it's not always Bam training for 2 chapters, and I really appreciated that. I noticed that as I read further on, the author got a lot better at that, because before there were long stretches of them doing the same thing, and I'm so glad that he's now, I guess, kind of mastered that way of having a lot of stuff get done in a condensed fashion. It really works well here. A nice side effect of that is that it made it very hard to predict where the story would go from here. I mean, there were a lot of surprises that I didn't see coming, and we actually got to see a lot more Rachel than I was expecting. We finally get to see her motivations and how she manages to weasel her way in with these extremely powerful people. I mean, seriously. For someone so useless in terms of strength, she has managed to latch herself onto the most OP Slayer candidate in existence. Really think about that. Either she's the most charismatic person in the world, which we all know she's not, or she's just really that manipulative. And it's safe to say it's probably the latter. But this now leads me to what I want to talk about next, which is the Dallar show.
So why don't we have a match to see who gets the remaining dollars from both teams? You and me.
What?
Just a one-on-one match with the 2 of us.
All right, let's hear it. So, what are the rules for this fair and equal match?
They're very simple. Just toss your dollar like this. If it's heads when it falls, I win. And if it's tails, then you win. Let's do it. You and me. Let's see whom God loves more.
Hurry up and toss it. Now I'm starting to wonder who's going to win.
In this scene, we get our first big moment between Rachel and Kun. There is so much about this scene that I love. It perfectly exemplifies why Kun is my favorite character in the series. Here you have two characters that absolutely despise each other, and they're duking it out in a game of sheer luck. It's the fact that Kun is willing to double down on this game of chance just to prove a point is just rad. Sure, it's done out of spite, but Rachel's the one who looks like a fool in the end. She can't bring herself to accept failure, and it's always someone else's fault or someone cheating her. Meanwhile, she's trying to backstab everyone the second she gets the chance. It's honestly a great character moment for both of them. Not only do we get to see Kun be a badass, but we also get to see more of Rachel's uglier side. While all this is happening over here with Rachel, Bam is also having his challenge against White. You even get to see Yuri and Evan get involved as they take front row seats and see the action unfold. This whole set piece was really great. There were lives at stake. Bam gets a great moment where he absorbs White's souls and creates a blade made out of Shinsu. And I'm not gonna lie, this is pretty hype. It's so badass. It's also the first time you see White get frustrated and worried during a fight, because up until this point he's been shown as this all-powerful and unstoppable force, but now that he sees how powerful Bam is, he starts to shake in his boots a little bit and gets a little worried. And to top that all off, we finally get the reunion of Yuri and Bam. It's been many years since she's seen him, and her giving him that hug hit me right in the gut, man. I don't know what it is, it was just something really nice and wholesome about that. The Dallar show arc was really good. It was kind of short, but it had solid pacing and there was always something interesting happening, and the character growth that happened in there was really rewarding. But this now puts us at the name hunt station.
So, how did it feel, fighting with Kaiser?
It was only for a moment, so I'm not sure. Kaiser's definitely strong, but didn't seem like someone I couldn't beat.
I didn't expect Kaiser would have such abilities.
Abilities?
Yes, abilities.
What kind of abilities are they?
That's a secret. I'll tell you when you promise you're going to help me. So, what do you think, Bomb? Would you be my servant and come with me to steal Kaiser's name tomorrow night?
I don't think I can do that, Dorsey. Actually,
What? You need Kaiser's name too? Why? Are you saying that you don't care if I die? As long as you can go after Rachel? That's not the answer that I want! I don't need that kind of ambiguity!
Man, oh man, let me tell you, this arc was a hard one to review. After how good the Dallar show was, I wasn't quite sure how they would be able to match it, especially without having White around to be in this arc. But even so, this arc is a big highlight in the series for me. From the very moment that I saw Ebisu's group and knew that they were going to get involved, I instantly got excited. Now, they don't end up doing a lot, but it does lead to some of the greatest confrontations in the series. It's rare to see main characters fight or manipulate one another, especially in a more shonen series like this, where typically everyone is the main character's friend. I really enjoyed that they did this because it gives you a chance to see a new side to the characters that we thought we knew. This all happens because Yuri tells Bam that if you're gonna continue on the Hell Train, you're gonna need to take down Kaiser in order to prove to me that you're strong enough to do so. Of course, when he gets to the Name Hunt station, he finds out that Ebisu's group is also there as well, and unfortunately, Dorsey kinda needs Kaiser's name as well. Both of them have valid reasons, it's just neither are willing to give in to the other. Of course, they could have talked it out a bit more, but that's not exactly in Dorsey's strong suit. That's why she tries to put the moves on Bam and manipulate him with that feminine charm that only a princess would have. But as we all know, Bam doesn't fall for stuff like that. I mean, he's a bit dense when it comes to love and stuff, but Ebisu and Kun end up getting dragged into it too, and it kind of hurts to see this initially, but I won't sit here and act like this wasn't one of the coolest moments in the series for me. It's actually funny because I never once thought while watching the show, what if Ebisu and Kun had a fight? Like, I never once thought this, but I don't know, it's just seeing it is kind of cool. But enough of that. Let's talk about Kaiser. The entirety of this arc, you hear all about Kaiser this, Kaiser that, this strong person Kaiser. Who the heck is Kaiser? This is probably the first time for me at least where I felt like a character truly lived up to that hype. Kaiser is honestly my favorite antagonist in the series. I think her design is sick, her backstory is cruel, you sympathize with her, and on top of all that, she has what's easily the sickest fight scene that I've read so far, which I know sounds pretty crazy to a lot of you, especially knowing what comes later, but allow me to explain why I feel that way. Personally, I hate fight scenes that are one-sided or ones where characters are just throwing beams and blasts at each other out of nowhere. Those honestly kind of bore me. It's like they're not really grounded, they never have enough weight to them, and it's just explosion after explosion, and it never really feels like they're winning by the skin of their teeth because they're fighting each other from 50 feet away. Like, of course they're gonna dodge the beam, you know? It's just not the same. Something I just can't stress enough about this fight is how perfectly translated the action is onto the pages. It's so easy to follow, and the fight is just well constructed for a reader's perspective. The reason why I say this is because it's a fight where the enemy has abilities that you just don't know, so you're finding them out at the same time as Bam, and the fight starts as one where you seem optimistic about it, and then halfway through, as you start to see more of Kaiser's kit, you start to doubt whether Bam can truly win this. I mean, once the wolf comes out, it's like, okay, this is a whole nother ball game. I don't know if Bam's got this in the bag or if he's just gonna get straight decimated. And that's what makes the fight so engaging. Just when you think that the W is right within arm's reach, that's when they move the goalpost just a little bit further, and that's what keeps me reading. Kaiser just takes the cake, man. I don't know what you want me to say. If you disagree, you disagree, but this is just my favorite, probably my favorite arc in the whole series. I'm sorry, that's just how it is, bro. Oh, and then if you think that was crazy, Karaka shows up and starts wreaking havoc. And then, of course, Yuri comes down and does the most amazing display of combat I've ever seen in the series. I mean, I already loved Yuri as a character, but now I might have to refer to her as Queen Yuri, because honestly, she's not a princess. She's on her own tier right now. She's just Queen Yuri. That's what I want to see. Queen Yuri in the comments, please. Respect to Yuri, man. Anyway, I think it's obvious that this is probably my favorite arc. It did have a slow start to it. I'm not going to say there was no issues, but most of the cool stuff that happened toward the end was just everything that I was eating up. I loved it, man. But now we're at the part that you've all been waiting for. Every comment in my comment section has been asking for this moment, and at last I'm going to give it to you. We are now at the floor of death.
What are you thinking so hard about, Bomb?
Kun, I was just thinking about Dorsey, wondering if I was being too harsh. If this power were the power to make everyone happy, if I was meant to be someone like a god who could make everyone happy, how wonderful it would be if I could make everyone's dreams come true. That's what I was thinking.
Bomb, isn't it better being human?
What?
Well, I don't completely understand you, but it doesn't look like very much fun being a god who just lives for everyone else's sake. That's your power, Bomb, so you have to decide how to use it yourself.
Just when I was losing all hope and thought that I was never going to get any answers in the series, this arc finally delivered on that front. And as good as it was, I can't sit here and pretend that it was okay for it to take this long. I understand that it would be impossible for Bam to get here without any of the stuff that happened prior, but I still feel that the mystery element of the series is poorly handled. If they had took a more subtle approach to it, where information is slowly trickled out more regularly, I feel like that would fit this series better. The whole reason I wanted to read ahead in the first place is because of the intrigue behind the anime's ending. I had so many questions and wanted answers badly. Little did I know I would have to push through 240 chapters to get there. It was satisfying, yes, but I already knew soon after that it was going to be another long gap before I get even more answers to the new questions that were brewed. And that is the problem with Tower of God. If you're in it for the mystery and you want to know these answers, you have to accept that you're not going to get them for who knows how long. It might be chapter 376 of season 3 before I even know the answers to the questions I have now. But you know what? I've accepted it, and I'm just going to embrace that. That's how the story is. Granted, I know that some people are going to get mad and they're going to be like, no, it was set up. There's stuff every chapter. Shut up. I don't want to hear it. You know why? Because in this series, you constantly hear rankers, top rankers praising Bam's progress, making you think, yes, look how far we've come, only for them to instantly shut that satisfaction down by saying something along the lines of, he has power that rivals that of top rankers. But I can't imagine how strong he'll be in 10 years from now. Like 10 years? Listen, Bam won't age in 10 years, but I will. And I'm not going to sit here and subject myself to another 10, 15 year long story. I get it. I'm not a One Piece fan. I don't like these super long stories. I like my endings. And I just would like to have something in mind. And oh my god, this video is 20 minutes long. Hell Train. So obviously the main goal is to climb the tower, but now we have some more layers to it, right? We learned the backstory of Bam's mother, Arlene Grace, where she came from, where he came from, and we have something. And what's funny is this kind of thing comes out of nowhere, but not in a bad way, right? It was a pleasant surprise. I'm not complaining, but when we first meet Garum, we don't have like any reason to think that she would know more about Bam's background or anything like that. She just kind of comes up and just like, oh, I got some information for you. Ready? I'm like, oh snap, info dump. So yeah, that chapter was very cool. One of the best chapters in the entire series for me because I was finally understanding what was going on, and that's just what I wanted the entire time. On top of the information that she gives us, the Floor of Death itself, it's a shining example of how to do great world building. The lore is just awesome. The reason why it's called the Floor of Death is because of the man Enryu. He comes down there and he kills the administrator. And like when you're seeing the Floor of Death, you're like looking around, you're like, oh my god, why is it so red? There's like liquid everywhere. Oh, that's blood. Oh, okay. Oh, this is the inside of a dead administrator. Those giant, you know, those giant flying creatures that you see constantly. Yeah, he killed one of those. Crazy. And this dude is just never to be seen. He's just gone. We don't know where he is. He's MIA. And honestly, that's like the most badass thing I've ever heard. One thing that Tower of God does deliver on is the world building. The world building is sick. It's awesome. It's always epic and grand, and you feel like this world has existed long before the story was told. And I really dig that. Now, moving on, because this video is getting long. It's incredible how they managed to cram so much in this one section. Like, seriously, we get introduced to Hell Joe. We see Yurik Mizuno fight with his full power. And we have yet another great confrontation between Bam and Rachel. And for the first time, he actually stands up to Rachel and tells her straight up, I'm done chasing you. And that was also a highlight for me. Pretty much the Bam and Rachel confrontations are like when the emotions are at its peak in the series. And I'll get more into how I feel about that towards the end of the video, but really great stuff there. Honestly, it's impossible for me to cover every single facet of this arc in this one video alone. It's definitely something that could deserve its own video in the future, but this arc is definitely a page turner, and it's a better setting than all the previous ones I talked about. It's the most interesting. There's a lot more characters here, but there weren't as many fights as I would like. It's very dialogue heavy, so that did make it feel like it was dragging a bit. And it's not that the dialogue wasn't interesting, it's just there's a lot of dialogue, so you naturally kind of get bored and you want to see something, you know, happen. But they do deliver towards the end. There's a nice epic fight towards the end. You even get Yuri. She's like dual wielding 2 of the 13-month series. That part's badass. Everything is cool. The Floor of Death is great. It's like easily top 3 arcs. But now I want to move on and start talking about the hidden floor.
Now, I'm going to fight like me.
What a ridiculous little kid we have here in the tower. Now, I'll have to really get serious. The Hidden Floor arc was extremely cool. I couldn't help but compare it to Greed Island from Hunter x Hunter. I know a lot of you have probably seen that, but Even though they are very similar in a lot of ways, the hidden floor does do something new. Anyone who has gone through the hidden floor has saved data versions of themselves from when they last left that floor. What that essentially means is, let's say I'm climbing the tower and I make it to the hidden floor. Whenever I beat the hidden floor and I leave, an exact data copy of myself is then saved and stuck in the floor. Now it does act on its own free will, even though it's not a person, but it is a version of myself from that moment, and it doesn't age or change from that time either. So now that you've heard this, your brain already starts to storm and wonder, okay, well, which characters have beaten the hidden floor? You already know some rankers that may have done it, but you don't quite know what they may have looked like when they did do it. Were they younger? Were they nicer? Were they even more corrupt? Who knows? But that's why this arc is so damn cool. It opens up an avenue for interactions that normally would never be possible. I mean, Kun gets to see a younger and softer side of his father, and Bam encounters a young Data-Jahad, and it's just a nice little taste of what's to come without actually spoiling the things that Jahad may do in the future. Now, out of all the arcs I've talked about thus far, this one has the most pacing problems. The beginning part of it is super slow, and yes, I know I did say that about the other arcs, but this one is really slow. Like, I didn't care about any of the NPC side characters here. Whenever they were doing basic video gamey quests, I was completely out of it. It always consisted of something that was so beneath the characters and felt more like a nuisance than anything. But just like all the other arcs, it does get better towards the end. We finally get a nice power-up boost for Rock and Kun. Kun has like this super sick spear that he can summon now, and Rock has stone hardening. And another big positive is that this arc has so many fights, but the one that hits the hardest is the big clash between Bam and Data-Jahad, because it's during this fight that Bam finally awakens his true power. In most of the fights, Bam tends to rely on copycatting the opponent's moves or trying to beat them at their own game, rather than trying to find a way of winning on his own. And when you're up against the likes of Jahad, you're not just gonna beat him with cheap tricks like that. So even though I wouldn't say this fight is as good as the one with Kaiser, it's still one of the best in the series. It just puts those ideas in your head where you're thinking, if this is how Jahad was back then, what is Jahad like right now? Also, the art here is just absolutely amazing. I know in my last video I kind of trashed on the art from the early chapters, but oh my god, the amount of improvement here cannot go unnoticed. Seeing this and comparing it to the anime, it makes the anime look bad. Honestly, even though I love the art style they went with in the anime, it's definitely never going to match the stuff I'm looking at right now. I mean, just look at this panel. The details in every frame just can't be replicated. While Bam is taking on Data-Jahad, Rachel has made it to the hidden floor by taking control of a new body. She uses it to trick Kun and make an attempt at his life. She nearly succeeds, but luckily Kun is frozen just before death. It's kind of great that he learned these abilities while he was in the hidden floor, because otherwise he might have very well died. Everyone escapes luckily, but the data world is wiped completely by Jahad, and he takes the bracelet to keep anyone from approaching his floor. It's kind of a dick move, but at least we now know what all is required in order to reach Jahad. This dude has made what might be the most tedious, annoying fetch quest I've ever seen in any anime just to reach him in the tower. It says a lot about what Jahad might be hiding. Hell, he could even be hiding from someone himself. Maybe Enryu, who knows? Or maybe he's really got his hands full up there doing something, or maybe he's just trying to protect people from seeing the truth of the tower. I don't know, but I do know one thing. This encounter with Bam has definitely struck a nerve, and that's why this brings us to the 3 orders. I'm not going to spend too long on this as it's rather short, but after this all goes down, Jahad sends 3 orders throughout the tower. The families must now come to an agreement on at least one of the orders. The 3 orders are as follows. You could either kill/destroy Foog, everyone riding the train, or the Po Bai Dao family. What's crazy is this is the first order he's made in centuries. Yes, centuries, which alone confirms 2 things. 1, time just does not matter in this tower, and 2nd, he truly sees Bam as a threat. This small taste of the politics within the tower was really interesting to me, and I really hope they delve more into that aspect of it, since it's something that I feel is a tad underdeveloped. It's also after this that we finally reach the last station.
Rachel!
You sure are obsessive.
Stay out of this! It doesn't involve you! Rachel, let's decide this right here.
Decided?
I want to fight you here. And we will end everything between us.
I'm surprised, Bomb. You getting angry at me? You never got angry at me no matter what happened before. I'm just competing to climb the tower like everyone else here. So why are you getting angry?
Rachel, I just can't understand you.
That's right. You would never be able to understand me. You have everything. A strong body, mind, and even the destiny to have been chosen for everything. That's why you're different from me. You'll never, ever understand me.
Rachel, I didn't come here to hear your excuses. I came here to get revenge. As Kun's companion.
Revenge? You? Why? I just competed with him. Fairly. Why am I the bad one here? Why? Only me. I haven't done anything wrong.
So, right till the very end, you still have no idea what you've done wrong. If you hurt someone, you get punished for it. That's the fair rule that you're talking about, right? Why do you think you're the only one that rule doesn't apply to? Let's end this now, Rachel. Is this all you came to the tower for, Rachel? I don't care anymore whether or not you climb the tower. Don't you ever show yourself again to the people who matter to me. If anything like this ever happens again, I may really have to kill you. I hope we never meet again.
Okay, finally here. The last station. This is it, the climax of season 2, where everything is happening all at once. It's kinda crazy. Bam finds out what Rachel did to Kun and decides he's going after her to settle the score and avenge his friend. I love that he went after her without hesitation. He didn't think about what she was thinking or why she would do it. He didn't care about that this time. This time, he wanted to get even. And oh my god, I can say without a doubt Rachel won't be showing her ugly mug anytime soon. But on a real note, I was kinda hoping that we would see Rachel show some sort of remorse or guilt for what she'd done. I guess part of me was hoping that there was more to it than that and it wasn't just purely spite, but that's just what it was. She even doubles down on her actions and even tries to give Bam another reason to chase after her again. This moment showed me that Rachel will probably never change. Her problems are embedded so deep within her that this is just how she is. She can't not be jealous of Bam. In her eyes, he really doesn't deserve the power that he's given. Just looking at the strives Bam has made in his time in the tower and then comparing it to the achievements that Rachel's made, and there's really nothing there. She's done nothing but leech off others. If she really wanted to, she could probably become really strong, but she wants everything handed to her on a silver platter. It's that entitlement that won't get her anywhere. Honestly, if Rachel does show up again in the story, I would hope that she shows up as a much different person than she was before, because at this rate, she will become pretty irrelevant to the story, and as shocking as it is, I really don't want that to happen. But hey, don't get the wrong idea here. I still don't like Rachel. I just like what she offers to the story. So yeah, those are my thoughts on that. I'm gonna wrap this video up very briefly by talking about Ivankel and Caliban. Now, Ivankel has been teased since the very beginning of this series, and she most certainly has lived up to her name. As the owner of the testing floor, she is easily one of the most badass and strongest characters in the tower. It's definitely on display in the fights that we see here, and I'm pretty excited to see that this is the person that will be training Bam, but I wonder what's her endgame in all of this. As for Caliban, Just wow. What a first impression for what I assume is going to be the big antagonist moving forward. The man who took down Jin Sung Ha. It's one thing to show up and be the strongest character ever, but he comes in and beats Karaka and Bam's master, the god himself. He's definitely the real deal. I just hope he gets more development than what we were given here. It didn't really give me a true taste of what his personality is like. Not that it really matters that much, but it's kind of cool when you know why your villain is being a villain, you know? Alright guys, that's it. I know no matter how long this video is, it will never cover everything that happened in Season 2, but even so, I tried my best. If there's anything else you want to hear my thoughts on, feel free to hit me up in the comments down below. I hope all of you enjoyed this video. I've got a whole lot of plans I want to get done this year, so please look forward to it and don't forget to subscribe. Have a good day, and I will see you guys in the next one.
You left your mark. Yeah, you were here. You left your scar and disappeared. I feel like